Good evening, everybody. How you doing?
Hey folks, how we getting on?
Looks like everything's working, like from the jump, which is wonderful. I like this. Hello, everybody.
Hi, how are
Hi.
we?
How are you doing? All right, fine. We got chat reaction. Good. That means we're live and everybody can see us. Good evening. Good evening. How are you? We are here. We were right in the middle of watching episode 3 of Silo.
Oh good lord.
If you have
Oh
not,
my.
if you have not watched Silo, which is
Apple TV.
it's on Apple TV, so I'm totally take on board. Everybody doesn't have access
And
to it,
Apple
but
TV have a pretty solid pipeline to DVD.
holy crumbs, is it well written? Like I don't think I've seen. It's a very well written show. They do this beautiful job of like going and like just building in the world, but every time you're like, wait a minute, what does that mean? Then like 5 minutes later, a character will have like half a sentence of dialogue. You're like, oh,
Oh
there's already
shit.
been like several times where we're like, pause. What does that
Read the
say?
thing.
Reading posters on walls and
Yeah.
like inferring content and stuff. It's really very, very tightly written, and as far as I can tell, at least from the 3 episodes we've watched, entirely written by women, which is brilliant. It's really good. I'm enjoying the heck out of it.
Also, it's really nice to see, and I always try and fight against projecting what you suspect is happening onto an actor's performance, because, professional liars. But it's very difficult to not look at it and think that Rebecca Ferguson is viscerally enjoying not standing next to Tom fucking Cruise for 3 months at a time.
Yes, very much so. And being covered in grime and having lots of great tattoos and
And just
muscle and
being bloody furious. She does a really good job in this, just being angry and not in that kind of, wait, just, she does this a lot.
yeah, I'm gonna kill you with my mind type of stuff. Right. Hey, how many things do we do on the stream?
Oh, normally we do 3 things on the stream. Shall I walk them through what we do?
Why not?
Okay, first off, we do an opening monologue. This is an opportunity for you to get hydrated, get fooded, make
Fed.
sure that, yeah,
Fed. The word is
fed,
fed.
thank you. Fooded, I
Do
work
we?
good. Get any meds you might need, make sure your pets are squared away, make sure the Roomba and the cat are not fighting to the death over a small waterfall on the Austrian border. You know,
That was a deep cut.
the usual. Then, once that's done, we will dive headfirst into the rich underground ocean of content, which right now is the astonishingly good There Is No Antimemetics division by Quantum. This is a novel set in the SCP universe. We'll have links for what that is and what that means for those of you that don't. Also, the content warnings. This will sound like I am joking. I am not.
Honey, we're getting reports that your mic is a touch crunchy, so maybe back it up a little bit. Back it up.
How's that?
Back it up. Let's try that. Why don't you keep talking a little bit?
Okay.
Is
I
that less crunchy, folks?
I said like one syllable.
I know. I'm just setting the stage. Vamp!
Um, completely derailed my train of thought. The content warnings, it took Marguerite 2 minutes to read them aloud. And she was not reading slowly. There are a lot.
Yes, we will reiterate again and multiple times. There are so many contents here, folks. Many, many content warnings. And we're just going to add some more every single time
Hey, Naomi.
as we go along. Right? Cool?
So once that's done, and we've got you good and terrified, what we're going to do is sneeze.
Really? Bless you.
No, maybe.
I don't know why you're holding your nose as if that's going to prevent you from sneezing. This is going to be so anticlimactic. Just turn your just quick. No, Naomi, don't say such things out loud. For those of you who missed it, Alistair unfortunately gets horrible nosebleeds every once in a while. It's terribly unfair.
So, the last thing which we do, so that we're not sending you home bloody terrified, is Shenanigans, which is going to be part of the ongoing Ask a Manager Magnus Archives fanfic put together by the one and only Shiny Opals.
Exactly. And we were going to have a conversation about AO3 when we get to...
yeah, we are.
Exactly. People are saying your audio is still just the tiniest touch fuzzy, which I'm not sure as to the cause of.
Okay, I'm gonna just play with the microphone a little bit. It's now substantially
Right
further.
now, in front of people?
I mean, it's after 9 o'clock. Um,
Okay, let us move on. There we go.
how's that? It's a little bit further away from my magnificent face.
Your microphone just can't handle the power of your voice is what it's saying.
My microphone is not ready for my jelly. We made it weird. Let's just do the
I'm
opening
waiting for the
monologue.
light before you to turn bright green really quick because I've got a bit, but I'm waiting for it. There it goes. Cha cha
Cha
cha
cha
cha
cha cha
cha cha
cha cha.
cha. Okay, that's
If
all I'm gonna do. That's it. That's it. I'm done. I can move on now.
real quick, off ramp. We probably want the tangent for this. If you did not experience the yearly wonder that is the Eurovision
The
Song
chat
Contest,
is filling with people crying out for vengeance
thank you.
and
Our
justice
people.
for Finland.
Our people.
Oh, poor Finland was robbed. Don't tell me Eurovision isn't
We
political.
have actually been to the fantastically Gotham-esque train station in central Helsinki in Finland.
The one that they decorated with bright green jackets on the statues. Apparently, like you
So good.
couldn't walk for the inside the airport in Helsinki. Every shop that had anything bright green had brought it to the front of the store with signs that said "cha cha cha" on them, and it made me so very very happy.
If you own the album, or if you pick up the albums for Eurovision, as we have for the last 5 years, I can reveal this one is pretty much bangers all the way down. Even better, even some of the songs, aside from the one that was literally "Kiss Me" by Sixpence None the Richer with worse lyrics, which can get fucked, some of the songs are actually vastly improved by not having the live performance in your eye
Hi,
pieces.
Poland.
Hi,
Your
Poland.
staging did you dirty. The song was fine, but the minute you made it into the vomited 80s magazine, whatever that was,
Egads.
I mean, and let's be honest, Finland has precedent for this, now don't they? Shall we say as yeah, yes, Pezzy, we are discussing Eurovision.
Oh yeah.
See, Hawkeye is invested. This was my second Eurovision, and I
I
demand
demand
justice.
justice.
Right? Well, here's the justice you're gonna get. You're gonna get the same justice that we got for Deidi in Iceland, which is this is someone who didn't win, but will be beloved and a like part of the history of Eurovision, overshadowing the winner
Oh yeah.
long past time.
The fantastic Ukrainian act, who I cannot remember for the life of me remember the name of, but the one which involves a lot of tinfoil.
Yeah,
Um,
the two guys and the two DJs who were like Ukrainian Daft Punk.
oh no, the older Ukrainian act.
Oh, the one that won last time.
Yes,
With the guy with the knitted face cover and the bucket hat that they showed at the beginning who were in the
no, the one before that, silver foil, large people.
Oh, you mean Vilka?
Vilka.
Okay.
Vilka. This is a yearly gig for Vilka. They rock up once a year now. They were doing this before the war. This is not a let's throw the Ukrainian act something to make them feel good. This was they're amazing. We're having them back every single year.
Yes. And now they get to come back every single year. It's delightful. Okay, we should stop talking about Eurovision because
Yes,
then
we
all
should.
we're gonna do is talk about Eurovision. I lived in Ireland for 3 years, and discovering Jedward was sent to Eurovision was something. Is Jedward the puppet?
No, that was Dustin the Turkey, who was also part of the Zig and Zag cinematic universe. Jedward are a
Okay,
pair of
we have
twins.
to pause and reflect on that sentence a moment. You're not just okay. Just keep talking. It's I can't. I just
We
can't.
literally don't have
We
time to get
literally
into
don't
the,
have
the
time
Zig
to
and Zag
unpack all that.
cinematic universe. We're going to end up talking about Gilbert and how far to hitch in. It's going to be a whole thing. Jedward are a pair of mildly terrifying and for a long time hated twins who did a terrible novelty pop act. And then they did Eurovision and suddenly became quite kind of, no, seize the means of production.
Shiny Opals, you don't know the half of it. Alistair has been on convention panels about Eurovision and the history of it and its political mapping and its fascinating history
I
and
mean, in fairness, I was the guy on the end of the panel going, yeah, I think it's great and it should be in Doctor Who. Listening to
Gilbert as in Gilbert's fridge, someone asks.
Gilbert as in Gilbert's fridge.
Okay, hold on.
You are my people.
All right, all right. This will be the last thing we will discuss with Eurovision. Then we must move swiftly on. But if you watch the voting for Eurovision, you will have noticed a woman named Catherine Tate was the presenter of the 12 points for the UK. Catherine Tate is the actress who plays the character Donna Noble in Doctor Who. My beloved companion who was done dirty and seems to be returning in this recent season. And I would like to make a wager right now, right here, that was not Catherine Tate presenting the points. That was Donna Noble. That, my friends, was a Doctor Who cameo that we don't even know was a Doctor Who cameo and will not until the Doctor Who episode airs. You heard it first here, months in advance. I have made my prediction.
Tell them why you think that.
Because she said allons-y, which is what the 10th Doctor, played by David Tennant, had as his catchphrase. Also, she was very nervous and a little jittery. She was acting like Donna. She was not acting like Catherine Tate. Then again, some days you can't run a piece of paper between the difference between Catherine Tate and Donna Noble, but that is my prediction. Also, you called this like a decade ago. You're like, the number one thing that Doctor Who has never done that they need to do is be in Eurovision.
Yep.
And what better opportunity than them bringing Eurovision to the UK as host to get a backdoor Doctor Who cameo. That's my prediction. I cannot wait to be right and to be, just lavished with praise for my brilliant mind.
They did do
also
a fantastic. They did do a fantastic Big Finish story set in a thinly veiled galactic version of the Eurovision Song Contest.
Thinly veiled. Well, this is the real deal. So.
But that's the closest they've ever got.
Yes, that is my prediction. Yet, happy Wednesday. I heard Doctor Who and I came running. Good timing. Yes, that is my prediction for sure. Right, shall we move on to our... Will the UK have Dalek as Eurovision? Oh God, wouldn't that be hilarious?
Dog Pond, I believe it's called Bang Bang a Boom.
I'm sorry, is that the name of the episode? Oh God. To Google he runs. 10th Doctor. The guy I thought was my first crush until I realized I actually had gender envy. Valid, Rubesco. So valid. Proper skinny.
He is proper skinny.
Proper skinny, exactly. Okay, we can't get started on Doctor Who deep cuts. We will be here forever. Now, Donna Noble was my girl, and she was done dirty, and I want revenge. The man is a stick. Let's be blunt. Let us be kind and honest, Pezzy. The man was a stick. If there's any... the fact that he's now properly three-dimensional is probably better for his health, let's be honest.
Besides, it's clearly Aziraphale feeding him up. You're welcome, crossover fans.
Thank you for that. You're welcome. Exactly. Hey, Luke.
Hey, Doc.
Black American version of the Sixth Doctor. I mean, yeah. I cannot wait for... Ncuti Gatwa. Because, oh God, the fashion. There is absolutely a Bridgerton episode happening. I hope
Shiny,
we're right.
The answer is yes.
I hope we're right about the deep cut. So there's been a photo released of the Doctor and his companion, who's some blonde woman that I don't know, and the historical character episode, it looks like, which is straight out of Bridgerton. And what's the name of the actor?
It's Jonathan Groff, the originator of King George in Hamilton.
The original performer of King George in Hamilton. So I'm really, really curious if they're having him play King George, because that would just... Exactly.
My ongoing theory is that they will do, and they will hold their color all the way through the episode, and then the Doctor will leave, and as he does, almost to himself, George will just go, "You'll be back," and leave.
He was also the Mindhunter. Yes, there's so much opportunity for the sort of thing that geeks love so much, which is little tiny Easter eggs that we get and feel happy about.
Rebecca, so there is a still shrink-wrapped copy of Taking Over the Asylum sitting about 20 feet to my left. It's on my list of things to check.
Yes, very much so. Oh, I was going to say the other Easter egg we saw, well, it's not an Easter egg, it's more a promo of... So a French promo of Season 2 of Strange New Worlds has been released. Folks, we are getting a Strange New World. So this is Captain Pike's Enterprise with number 1 by Rebecca Romijn and Ethan
Peck. Who is the grandson of Gregory.
Oh, I didn't know that. Ethan Peck as Spock. They are getting a crossover episode with I hope you're all sitting down.
Lower Decks.
Lower Decks. And apparently the episode is half in real life, half animated. And I am beyond myself. I need it so badly.
I found out another rumored thing about it, which will hit you right in the feels. It's apparently called Those Old Scientists, because there's a line in an early episode of Lower Decks where Commander Ransom has that line about, those old scientists, Kirk and Spock and the like. They ran into new aliens every week, it seemed.
I remember that episode. That was the one where the crew of the Cerritos is trying to sneak into the officers' party.
And they find out that Kirk and Spock, 100 years previously, couldn't, and ended up in the same shitty bar they were in.
Yes, it was. Yes. It's very.
Lower Decks is lovely. It's all
Decks,
lovely.
If you like Rick and Morty style, oh, that kind of does it a disservice, especially these days. If you like Steven Universe and Rick and Morty style contemporary animation, and you love Star Trek, then Lower Decks is for you. If you don't think you love that because you're an older Trekkie fan like I am, and you love being smug about Easter eggs, Lower Decks is for you. If you want to kit your wardrobe out with really awesome Star Trek gear, Lower Decks is for you.
Oh, good spot, Rogan.
What's this?
Those Old Scientists. TOS.
Oh.
Nicely done.
Ah, well done, Herben. Well done. We have to do the monologue, or we're going to run out of time to scare people tonight.
One thing, the amazing John Wiswell, whose work you should read, and it's everywhere. Just put John Wiswell through Google and pick a random story. You'll love it.
No. Do not pick a random story. You need to start with Tank! Exclamation mark.
Tank is great.
Excuse me. I will fetch forth.
Wiswell perfectly described Lower Decks, and when they said there is no Star Trek fan who loves Star Trek more than Lower Decks does. It is a show with a deep, profound love for the world in which it is set. All of it, probably especially the shitty bits. Anyway, while you're doing that, I'll kick off on the monologue.
I'm gonna sneeze. It's your fault.
The house has been cleaned, which is I suspect why we're both a bit congested.
And I spelled his name wrong. It's Wiswell. Also, content warning: gender feels.
How to play Age of Empires 2 as a hive mind, and why it's incredible.
I hope you feel smug that you're ahead of me right now. Resistance is feudal.
Probably the most common woe for all but the most unnaturally gifted players of real-time strategy games is the feeling of being overwhelmed. Particularly in games from the genre's golden age of the late 90s, there is this relentless need to focus on several things at once and endlessly jump back and forth between combat and economy.
Like real life.
Age of Empires 2, beautiful beast though it is certainly no exception, even with the concessions to modernity introduced in its definitive edition last year.
However, what if I was to tell you that there was a way to play the game totally unmodded in a way that eliminates this concern entirely? Well, as the bloke off of the Pirates of the Caribbean once memorially said, you'd best start believing in posts about weird Gestalt consciousness Age of Empire sessions. You're in one.
Oh, please. You'd best start believing in posts about weird Gestalt consciousness Age of Empire sessions. You're in one.
Activating hive mind mode is, as it happens, an extremely simple business. First, you'll want to host a multiplayer game lobby, like you usually would. Then once you've got all your pals in there with you, you'll need them on a Discord voice channel or similar to, for reasons I'm about to explain, so you're playing a game with friends. You just have everyone pick the same team, the same civ, and crucially the same player color. Have people select those things in that order, or I don't think it'll work. You'll need enemies as well and map settings, but I've got some suggestions for you in the link below.
When the game starts...
Oh, no, you missed the caption. It's also just quite funny if everyone changes their screen name to the same thing.
When the game starts, the poor baffled computer will just dump everyone who selected the same color into one player slot, and the fun can begin. It's at this point that voice communication becomes vital, because there is absolutely no hierarchy in your collective consciousness.
I'm sorry, have they not met me?
Thank you. Everyone has full control over every unit and building, and without proper chat, players will end up wrestling over villages, building multiple redundant copies of things, and never ever getting to feudal age because some bastard keeps spending all the dinner on brutes.
Nevertheless, with just the smallest conflab before launch as to who's going to take which responsibilities, you'll find it works a dream. With 4 people sharing a single civ, even a bunch of mediocre players like me can pantomime horse their way to chillingly efficient play, trouncing several allied AIs with ease. Even with teams of 2, where one person controls economy and the other military units, you'll be astonished at how different AoE 2 plays. Honestly, it's like being in one of those big lads off of Pacific Rim, where only you don't have sudden flashbacks to your mates' past traumas.
The next picture caption is: a picture may speak 1,000 words, but in this case, a graph will batter your abdomen apart with a halberd.
Oh, that guy has 3 arms!
AoE2's military units, it turns out, are monstrously effective when someone is micromanaging them constantly, rather than leaving them to fend for themselves like hapless robot toddlers every time they need to sort things out back at base.
Because that's what I want to do with my spare time, robo-babysitting.
Usually, high-level micro is something only enjoyed among the Olympian heights of pro-level play, but with someone else looking after the town centre, you're free to make your life a nightmare for the enemies non-stop. Like you're the baddie in a weird Terminator reboot where the skeletons have been replaced with aggressive, toothless oafs.
Here there is an image that reads, "Verily, my liege, mine are like unto God in this mode." See how they annoyeth the mangonel. Okay. He had fun. Clearly, this mode of play opens up quite a lot of interesting possibilities for multiplayer matches, and it's worth experimenting with. But if you'll allow me to be your AO2 sommelier, I can't say that. Sommelier, I have a few suggestions for fun setups to try. Let me know how you get on.
1. The Septopus. I would have loved to have called this one the Octopus, but you can only have a maximum of 7 players on one team and still have an opponent on the map, so the Septopus it is.
Of course.
Anyway, in this mode you'll want to play on a tiny map with 7 of you hiving up to take on a single AI at extreme level. This is potentially the only type of hive mind game that's harder than its 1v1 equivalent, as there is so much division of labour involved. Your teamwork will have to be top-notch to avoid getting run down like a dog in the feudal age, as your villagers spasm helplessly between possession by multiple selfish demons.
I mean, true. 2. Team Islands Plus. No man is an island entirely of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. So said John Donne, who was famously shit at Age of Empires 2. He probably would have enjoyed this game mode, though. TIP uses the Team Islands map, which of course everybody hates, but takes the crucial step of forcing each team into a single simulated medieval mind. With 2 opposing hive... Well, yeah. With 2 opposing hive minds of 2, 3, or even 4 players, ideally with its own Discord channel, this usually stilted war of attrition becomes an intense, tactically dynamic affair with boats and horses and everything used to full effect. My AoE2 group has found, you see AoE and I'm like, Area of Effect. My Area of Effect 2 group has found that on a 4-person team, a split between economy, navy, invasion, and defense makes for the best match.
3. Giga War! This one's about pushing everything to the maximum. You'll want to play with AIs on their hardest setting, the one called hardest, not the actual hardest, confusingly called extreme.
Why would we advertise things correctly, you know?
And 2 to 4 players in the hive mind. Now, obviously, you can play with this ratio depending on skill level, but the one we often go for is a 4-player hive versus 2 teams of 2 AIs. The map uses Budapest since it starts you with 2 town centres, and it should be set to giant at the very least.
So does he remember Budapest very differently than I do?
Well done. The secret sauce? Setting the population cap from the standard 200 per side to a brain-melting 500. AoE2's enemy AI tends to outperform humans more and more as it scales up its resources, so when Giga War gets to the Imperial Age, it's a proper horror show. As hundred-strong von human swarms of halberdiers rampage across the map with neither pity nor self-knowledge in their hearts, it can take 4 decent players just to hold back the swarm, let alone pull off a win. Cracking stuff.
That sounds like way too much work for my entertainment for me.
Just hell on toast, man.
Your camera's getting bumped around a little bit.
Yeah, I'm moving around.
When I want to play a game, I just want to steer a little kitty through a little city. Or I'm playing Truffle Pigs right now, which is another walking simulator. It's you and one of those metal detector thingies. And who is it? Arthur Darvill?
Yeah, it's Rory from Doctor Who.
Giving just lovely little snarky commentary. And I think there's a backstory, and I wouldn't be surprised if something weird happens.
And he may or may not be real.
Yeah, not quite sure if it's a simulation or not. I don't know. I'm enjoying it. It's very relaxing. It's very pretty. Right. I think everybody's warmed up.
Time for nightmares.
I mean, we should probably take a little bit of a break so people can refill their water real quick.
Time for nightmares.
But then we will engage in the 3-hour long ritual of reading the content warnings, which I will put up in the chat before we start. In fact, I'll put them in the chat right now in case you do need a few minutes to read through them, because we have Ducky has done a fantastic job of making them very detailed. The other thing I'm going to put in the chat is a link to the original book and where you can find more. Also, I think it's part of the 99p Kindle deal right now. So while we take a little break to refill water, if y'all are inclined to read along, you might want to pop over to the Kindle store and pick yourself up a copy. And you can follow along with us.
All right.
Wendy has jelly bean sours, and they do exactly what they say on the tin. Ooh, nice. I don't have any candy at all.
There's a couple of Oreos left.
No, there's not.
Oh.
Sorry. I'm afraid we are out of Oreos. Out of Oreo error. Please insert more money to continue. I've not had the chance to watch part 1, but I have read this before, so it should be good, provided I remembered it. Well, or if you don't remember it, by all means. Kindle Deals UK storefront only. That should be the majority of this crowd, but for folks who are not on the UK storefront, there are more purchase links available from Quantum's website. So we're going to take a little 2-3 minute stretch because I'm already out of water, and then we will come back with nightmare fuel and content warnings. You've been warned. We'll see you in just a moment. This is the part where we'll stare awkwardly at the screen while Marguerite remembers how to push the buttons. Hey everybody. So we've got about 30 seconds till the ad break finishes. And I just wanted to mention something. Quantum's talked about how one of the content warnings is drug use, and that's correct. And yes, they are fictional drugs. However, they are also sometimes administered by needle, which is like one of my common phobia things. So never hurts to have too many content warnings as far as I'm concerned. So yes, it is just about time for the spookiness. Let me get myself situated. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say is we do have the Dramatis Personae that we are taking as we go along. The entry on the Dramatis Personae is running at a bit of a lag, and that's kind of intentional. It's not going to ever jump ahead. We're just going to catch up on it as we are encountering content.
Because there are a lot of characters we haven't met yet.
Yes, precisely. So, let us start, as I said, with those content warnings. Right. So, oh, wow, I've got a typo in there. The headline content warnings for There Is No Antimemetics Division are common phobias, death and dying, horror themes, mental health and trauma. Alistair blowing his nose on microphone. Socio-political things, violence, drug use, smoking, and swearing. There is a detailed list of content warnings, which may include spoilers, at that link. They are extensive. As Alistair mentioned, it took me about 2 minutes to read them aloud. So if you need a moment to go and pop over and take a look, please do so. The VOD will always be available for you when you're ready to catch up. Also, characters aren't always what they initially appear to be. I found it quite tricky to update the Dramatis Personae last week because we kept learning new stuff. I regret to inform you, Wendy, you have discovered a theme, shall we say. And on that note, we're going to be picking up with introductory antimemetics.
Junior researcher Kim's been working for the Foundation for all of 4 hours, and he feels pulverized, as if an anvil were dropped on his head in that first introductory lecture. It's lunchtime, and he's found a corner so far back in the cafeteria that nobody bothers him, where he can chew and swallow non-anomalous food, drink apocalyptically strong coffee, and digest the hard lessons of the morning. On his Foundation-provided phone, he pages fretfully through the few SCP files for which he has clearance. Most of them have to be jokes. That's how they read, like very bad, dark, frightening jokes. Kim is one of 11 junior researchers in the new intake, and the other 10 are sitting in a separate group at a separate table, chatting animatedly to one another. There are some instructors here and there, munching sandwiches. Other than them, the cafeteria, large enough to seat 200 people or more, is deserted, and to Kim, that seems odd. Site 41 is large, 3 skulking buildings with significant basement space buried casually in the forests of central Colorado. Where is everyone? A man in a grey suit walks into the cafeteria, makes eye contact with Kim, and strides purposefully over. The man's suit is sharp enough to cut. He wears a tie pin and a platinum wristwatch as big as a brick. He looks badly misplaced. Site 41 is a working site. There's training, education, research, development, analysis, and even the containment of a few very safe SCPs going on here. Executive shouldn't ever be here. So what is he? Lost exec trying to find a helipad? Researcher? Instructor dressing for the job he wants, not the job he has?
Hell of a first day.
The man says, holding a hand out.
Alistair Gray, with an E.
Kim, says Kim. Paul Kim.
Good to meet you. What accent is that, if you don't mind me asking?
Kim blinks. New York. He says, I'm from New York. Are you the site director?
You seem on edge.
Well, that figures, doesn't it? Kim asks. You must know how that intro goes. It's like an atom bomb to the ego. I just had almost everything I know overturned. It turns out I've spent my entire adult life being protected from dangerous knowledge, as if the whole world outside is a ball pit for under sevens. And I have to tell you, stepping out of that has been humiliating to start with, and he blinks again. Hey, what do you do here exactly? You didn't answer my question.
You didn't answer mine.
Of course I did, Kim says. I'm from... And then he just stops. His train of thought running off the end of the track into air. It's on the tip of his tongue, the answer to Gray's question, but he can't get the words out. That's weird, he says, shaking his head. At this point, he also notices that Gray isn't wearing his badge. Now, this could be an honest mistake, albeit an extremely serious one, but surely execs don't get to the executive level without being scrupulously correct in everything they do. Who are you? Kim asks again.
Your life story was fascinating.
What?
You spoke 4 languages. One, and now soon, 0. Too huge an intellect to specialize, your education was a fusion of biochemistry and comparative literature. You felt as if you'd die if you couldn't find more foreign thoughts to cram into your head. You've been all over the world, Hungary, and every country you've ever been to was like landing on another planet. You toy with anthropology, but there's too much world for one human race to ever understand, let alone one human. There's too much human race. We should pare it down.
Kim nods. Would you excuse me for just 1 second? He gets up and hurries to another table, to the instructor whom he met earlier that day. When Kim gets close to her, he feels a kind of staticky sensation building up, and he tries to shake her shoulder and succeeds in moving it a little, but it's like reaching through tar. Hey, there's a problem. There's an intruder. I think it might be an SCP. Doc, look at me! Hello? She doesn't react. He tries to gaggle with fellow newcomers as well, but they keep chattering and hypothesizing, oblivious to him shouting and clapping in their ears. Hey, people, listen to me, listen to me. No. He looks back. Gray has stood up and started moving towards him, still with that confident smile, and there is definitely something wrong with him now, because he's visible through the tables, like an augmented reality hollow projection jammed inside Kim's eyeball. Kim realizes with a stab of fear that he can even see Gray when he blinks. His eyelids close, but Gray is still there, an apparition in what for all of Kim's life has been totally personal, private darkness. The only way he can avoid seeing Gray is to turn away, and even then he feels a radioactive prickling in the back of his eyeballs. Kim tries to phone one of the newbies. The phone in the newbie's pocket rings, and other than that, nothing happens. Nobody reacts. That doesn't make sense, Kim says.
Do you remember your father?
I never knew my father, Kim says, edging away. Mom raised me. Gray's white smile is a fixture.
These people loved your perspective. They were going to put you to work on anomalous antimemes, but they don't remember you exist. You don't exist.
Kim says, mainly to himself, there aren't any dangerous SCPs on this site. It's a safe site, so either you're not dangerous or nobody knows you exist. And if nobody knows you exist, then that means you're either brand new or you're... What's an anti-meme?
Hell of a first day.
Are you sentient? Kim
You
asks.
seem on edge.
Gray says. Kim bolts. He exits the cafeteria, turns a corner and runs 10 or 11 paces down the corridor to where there is an elevator. He stabs the down button and he waits. The elevator door is highly polished, reflective. Kim catches sight of a face in the mirrored surface and nearly falls over with shock because it's a face he has never seen before, and it is apparently his own. Jesus. Oh, no. No, he babbles. What the hell? What the hell? Gray comes around the corner, still only strolling, just as the elevator cracks open. Kim dives in and punches the lowest floor, basement level 8. It's instinctive, although he could rationalize that decision in retrospect. He can't just get in his car and drive. It's better if Gray stays on site than if he's set loose in rational reality. And to do that, it's better if Kim retreats to the lowest, darkest corner of the site for which he has access, and then waits for Gray, and then locks all the doors behind them, and waits to die. The elevator starts descending, and the apparition of Gray, visible now through doors and floors, disappears upwards, shrinking with distance and perspective, but still smiling broadly down at Kim. Kim paces in the elevator. I don't remember what my face looks like. It said it had eaten all of my secondary languages, but I don't remember learning anything other than English, so it's It's eating my memories, it's consuming information, and I can't contact anybody directly, which means I'm on my own. Not trained for this. He hammers his head once against the elevator wall and stares at his shoes. But I don't know that. What if I've been trained, but I don't remember my training anymore? What if I've been working here for years and I only think this is my first day? What if I've met this thing before? What if everybody on this site has met it multiple times and nobody remembers? An anti-meme. Is this what an anti-meme is? Kim remembers the near-empty cafeteria, the miles of totally unoccupied corridors and vacant office and lab space. Maybe it's not just eating my memories. Maybe it eats people whole, removes them completely from history. Maybe it's been haunting the site for years, and that's why the site's so empty, because it's nearly finished exterminating us all. I need to get help. I need to warn somebody. How? I can't talk to people. I can't phone them. I should write an SCP. But surely someone's already thought of that. He pulls his phone out. He pulls out the listing. Nearly 10,000 SCP entries. 100 of them are tagged antimemetics alone. Kim clears his mind. Grey with an E. Grey 4739.
SCP-4739. Object Class: Keter. Special Containment Procedures. I'm disregarding the format because time is a factor. If you're reading this, you've already been isolated from the Foundation at large. Attempts to signal for help are futile. You are now inside 4739's gullet after ingestion and prior to digestion. You need to get to lab S041B08053 as soon as possible and continue the research until you find a way to stop or kill Grey before it kills you. Don't read the rest until you're in the elevator. Description:
At that moment, the elevator doors open at basement level 8, and Alistair Gray, with an E, is waiting, still smiling disarmingly. He steps forward. Desperate, Kim hurls his phone overarm at the creature's forehead. It's a solid chunk of metal. It's a dead hit. Gray reels backwards and cracks his skull against the wall. By the time he recovers, Kim is out of sight, herring away down the left corridor, just echoing fading footsteps on concrete. Two 45-degree turns, room 53 in sight, the door at the furthest end. It looks like a submarine bulkhead. Kim spots the keypad from way out. 4 digits. He tries 4739 and it works first time. The bulkhead mechanism takes agonizing seconds to open up. Come on, come on, come on!
Do you remember your mother?
He hears Gray calling down the corridor. Never knew my parents, I was an orphan! Kim hisses under his breath. For a split second, he wonders what Gray might really mean by that. He doesn't really have time to dwell on it. The bulkhead opens. Kim slides in and pulls it closed behind him, locking the mechanism up again, as if that will buy him even 1 second. The lab inside is sizable, windowless, of course, and stacked to the ceiling with a jumble of equipment which Kim hardly recognizes. There are pieces of thick, shattered glass underfoot. In the corner there is a computer terminal. It's locked. Kim unlocks it, and there is the same entry waiting for him.
Description: SCP-4739 is a powerful, slow-acting antimemetic kill agent, taking the appearance of a male Caucasian business executive calling itself Alistair Gray. SCP-4739 is attracted to dense clusters of organically stored information, essentially extremely knowledgeable, complicated, interesting people. SCP-4739 isolates its victim from the outside world by enveloping them in an antimemetic field, which makes it impossible for the victim, or anything done by the victim, to be perceived or remembered. SCP-4739 then consumes the victim's memories and knowledge, until they become vegetative and die. This process takes between 15 minutes and 2 hours and is described as being like Alzheimer's disease in fast forward. SCP-4739 is not believed to be sentient, although it imitates the behavior of a sentient being to the extent that it can appear sentient to the inattentive. Its victims are able to move and act freely, since it is impossible to escape once caught or to signal for help. Communications such as written notes, graffiti, and electronic mail do not get sent and persist in reality, but SCP-4739's effect spreads with each message, making it impossible for an external observer to perceive the message until such time as SCP-4739 catches them as well. The SCP entry which you are currently reading is created and maintained by the victims of SCP-4739 because it is only visible to victims of SCP-4739. If you are reading this SCP entry, SCP-4739 has caught you. You are now isolated from the Foundation at large and constitute an effective Foundation of one. You have between 15 minutes and 2 hours to reach Site-41, Basement Level 8, Laboratory 53. Familiarize yourself with the existing research and continue this research until you find a way to contain or decommission SCP-4739, or more likely, you die. If your field of expertise is not related to antimemetic containment, we sincerely apologize and advise you to start learning fast. SCP-4739 has consumed, this is a series of hash marks, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 79 Foundation researchers since we started counting on August 3rd, 2013. If you are reading this entry for the first time, please add a mark. We estimate at least 50% of victims never make it as far as this database entry, so the true victim count is likely more than twice this figure.
How do I kill it? Kim screams. He scrolls and scrolls through the research, which is chaotic and haphazardly arranged because nobody has found the spare seconds to sort it out. There are dozens of separate lines of research contributed in patchwork by a succession of victims, all ending with variations on the same final line. I'm going to try X. If you're reading this, X didn't work and I'm dead, which means approach X is a dead end and you have to think of something else. He reads, nobody has succeeded in physically engaging with Grey. Nobody can stall it, evade it, slow it down, reason with it, or redirect it to some other target. People have tried poisoning their memories with indigestible ideas, drip-feeding their memories to Grey to slow him down, replacing their memories faster than Grey can eat them, and force-feeding Grey too many memories at once to overfeed him and blow him up. They have tried committing suicide by Class A nestic overdose. None of it has worked. More than 100 people, most of them apparently possessing doctorates, have slid into the maw of this thing, fought briefly, and with a greater or lesser degree of dignity, died. There are no remaining untried threats. Tim concludes. He glances up. Gray's not in the room yet, but Kim can see him strolling down the last stretch of corridor. He's a totally intangible being. Physical obstructions are irrelevant to him. He can't be hurt. Kim clutches the pocket where he used to keep his phone. Wait a second. He scrolls again. He finds the 3 or 4 sad, desperate wretches who died confronting Gray physically. Combat knife and Glock. Baseball bat. Kim looks up and checks the room. Sure enough, the bat's there, rolled under a table. One man, an elderly botanist far out of his depth, said he was just going to try whatever he could find that was heaviest. That explains the shattered CRT television and the light layer of thick glass on the floor, near the bulkhead. And CCTV of the botanist's attempt. It accomplishes literally nothing. Gray is a holographic ghost, and the CRT drops right through him, imploding when it hits the floor at Gray's feet. The botanist spends the rest of the video's running time huddled in a corner, gradually losing his mind, while Gray watches placidly. Tim realizes with his eyes boggling. A phone is a solid brick full of information. For me, nobody tried using information as a missile. Kim searches for the experiments, several of them scattered, where the victim tried to divert Gray to a different data source. The general idea seemed to be overload Gray by pointing him at something containing too much information. The internet, or the terabit feed from a live particle accelerator experiment, or a stack of hard drives containing the first few quadrillion binary digits of pi. But nobody could figure out a way to distract Gray's attention. Prominently placed screens full of data he would ignore. Data beamed at him electromagnetically, radio, laser, had no effect. And nobody could figure out a way to tunnel the information in through the victim's mind as extra memories. It was written off as impossible, closed as a line of investigation. The hard drives, Kim finds, are right there on the workbench next to the computer. It's a half-rack unit, a cuboidal block of metalwork as big and heavy as a bowling ball. One of the most ineffective conceivable melee weapons. Kim snatches up the 3 longest pieces of Ethernet cable he can find, and he starts plaiting them into a chain. Then he remembers who he is, and where he is, what his responsibilities are. So he goes to the computer, to the SCP entry, he adds himself to the victim tally, and he writes up exactly what it is he is about to try, because he might not be the last one, and the world needs to know that this didn't work. Gray comes through the lab bulkhead to find most of the equipment in the room toppled onto the floor to create room for the black and silver drive array that Paul Kim is whirling around his head on a 2-meter chain made of plaited network cable. It makes a low thrumming sound as it whirls. Gray is not intelligent enough to stop moving forwards and catches the array directly in the side of his head, rack mount point first, like a morning star. Gray absorbs a few trillion digits of the impact. It isn't enough. There is a green snap of light and a noise like a subway train short-circuiting, and then Gray is a pile in the corner, his head caved in, and the drive array partially demolished in pieces around him. Kim decides that history can fill in whatever quip it likes best.
It was chewing its way up the antimemetics division hierarchy, Wheeler tells him in the aftermath. It was only a matter of time until it bit down on somebody dangerous. Congratulations on demonstrating a basic level of competence when it occurred. Dozens of others couldn't.
Kim still feels rattled, but the shock is dissipating way faster than he'd expected. Marion Wheeler, it turns out, is the Antimemetics Division Chief. He is Kim's new boss. I want to say it was dumb luck, Kim says. I want to say that I just threw my phone, that it was instinct, that it was muscle memory, it was my first day, and I got lucky as hell. I want to say those things. But I'm sitting here and I'm turning those statements over and none of them would be true, would they? Wheeler waits expectantly and says nothing. You're not my new boss. Kim says, you're just my boss. This isn't my first day at all. I've been working here for, well, it must be over a decade, right? I think I've been a professional antimemetics researcher since at least the mid-2000s. It's just that the first thing Gray ate was my memories of everything past the first day, and even then...
I see very little luck in what happened today. Instinct and muscle memory are just deep forms of training. Like I said, a basic level of competence. An ability to piece your own life and all your past knowledge back together faster than nearly anybody else. This is what we try to drill into you, and sometimes, thankfully, it sticks.
This isn't even the first time we've had this conversation, Kim continues. There have been other incidents with other SCPs with Nestic powers. You've sat there and watched me put myself back together before.
It hasn't gotten old yet. Wheeler admits something which might be approaching a smirk.
How long does it usually take for me to recover?
A few months. But if you want the honest truth, people in this division are as competent on day one as they'll ever be. You come to the job firing on all cylinders, or not at all. The rest is just fine-tuning and chemistry.
What you're actually saying is you don't care about my mental state and you need me back at work now,
Yep.
Kim says.
I need an updated SCP entry just to begin with. I need you to nail down the model for Gray's predatory pattern and exactly how you defeated it. I want you to work out what it did with the bodies. Incinerated, disintegrated, just left them lying around the site in rotting, perpetually cloaked heaps. And I need countermeasures for when it comes back.
Not dead. Wait, Kim says. I think I know this one. It's coming back to me. Ideas don't die.
Unforgettable. That's what you are. Well, it's finished.
Lynn Marness is more than 90 years old and hasn't stood at his full height in 10. He was a tower of a man in his time. 2 meters tall, built like a boxer. Nearly nobody he ever met was able to look him straight in the eye, at least not and tell him no. Illness has gradually eaten that over the years. He feels as if he lives at the bottom of a deep bath. Everybody he ever meets looking down at him from slippery, unscalable walls, none of them able to reach down to help him. He has spent his final months crumpled up in bed like a dying spider, changing to a corpse's color ahead of time. Might have been bearable if he lost his mind, but he remembers what he used to be, a leader, a powerhouse. He used to be able to alter the course of terrible events for the better, to get justice. He used to protect people.
Elle, you can wake up now.
But there's a warm wind through his thin, colorless hair, and there's direct sunlight coming down on him now, and the heat is filling him up like a tonic. He's outside. It's been too long since he was last outside. When he opens his eyes, he sees his lake, the one in the northwest, which he used to have all to himself every summer. He's on a boat, his boat, lying on a blanket laid on the deck. A few kilometers away behind them is the little lake house. Empty. It's perfect. He didn't know he had the strength left to safely leave the hospital, let alone travel this far. But if he put his mind to it and selected a final moment, this might have been it.
You remember me?
Marness looks, with eyes which are strengthening. The woman speaking is seated on the deck beside him, attentive. She has a large plastic box full of medical supplies open in front of her, and a light suit jacket laid on the deck beside it, and she has her sleeves rolled up so she can work. As he watches, she carefully disposes of a needle. A dim memory surfaces and starts taking shape. The woman is twice as old now as when he knew her last, and visibly twice as confident. It would be difficult to forget her. He taught her everything everything he could remember at the time. He remembers her as a field agent. He remembers sending her through hell a fistful of times. Marion,
Elle,
the woman softly explains.
you died. You died surrounded by grieving family. They loved you very much, and they cried over you. The funeral for the fake is in a few days, but unfortunately you won't be able to see it yourself. You're dead now, and this is what comes next.
Marion Hutchinson. Marness feels gold spreading through his bones. Miracle juice.
It's Wheeler now, but she doesn't correct him. When you retired from the Foundation, Elle, we did what we do to all of us who retire, what all of us agree to when we signed up. We gave you some medicine, which made you forget. As you stepped out of the door for the last time, all the work you did for us, great work, work which saved lives, evaporated away, and your cover story sealed over those years and became reality. That's why you've spent your whole retirement believing that you were a former section chief at the FBI. It's what you wanted. It's what we wanted. It's what you agreed to. But you, alone, agreed to something else as well. And you must be starting to remember now what that something else was. I've injected you with a serum that throws the human aging process into hard reverse. And it affects everything. Organs, tissues, memories. You'll be coming up on it soon, remember?
Yes, Marness croaks, remembering. Dizzy.
You signed over your final 12 hours to us. You asked for a full and healthy and well-deserved retirement, but now, for the last day, you work for us again because of one particular job. I have it in writing here, you see?
Yes.
Do you recognize your signature and mine? I witnessed.
Yes.
Do you remember who you are?
Dr. Lynn Patrick Marness of the Foundation, he says. Antimemetics Division founder.
Wheeler smiles with relief. It's good to see him again. We need some memories from you. Memories which no one else in the world has access to, and which are buried so deeply that we can extract them without killing you. So this afternoon, that's what we're going to do. We're going to extract those memories, and once we do, you'll be dead.
Marness has already begun to regress to the time when he himself set this wheel in motion. He remembers very clearly discovering the mystery in his own head, the blank spots which he could not explain and could not safely access with any kind of chemical or physical technique. He remembers deferring the mystery until now.
What happened in 1976? And that's where we're going to take a little break. Have some tea. We'll be right back. why, yes. Yes, I do have a flair for the dramatic. And yes, folks, we're going to finish the chapter because it would be just terribly, horribly cruel of us to leave you right there, wouldn't we? We've got about 5 seconds left in the ad break, so maybe you could tell I'm vamping a little tiny bit here. All right. Shall we continue?
Now we continue. Marnes sits up. His skin is beginning to clear. His breathing is improving. He feels as if his brain is cleaved in two by a wormhole, such that his eyes are focusing on different time periods. In his right eye he sees the lake and the boat he is dying on. In his left he sees a collage of electrifyingly familiar past faces and places. Bart Hughes with his grin and thick glasses and baby face, looking like some kid dressed up as a Foundation researcher. The original Site 48 crew, great techs, hopeless excuse for a softball team. Young Marion with steel-strong nerves and a mind like a laser, suits and lab coats and MTF operatives and everywhere, paperwork and floods of serial numbers, and he starts to speak. 1976 was the year he founded the division. He brainstormed the whole thing in one legendary week, hammering out the science and then distilling the first chemical nestic with the help of a handpicked trio of assistants, the first antimemetics researchers. No antimemetic SCPs had ever been observed up to that point. The entire operation was a shot in the dark. And yet, the team immediately struck gold. Passive black holes of information, active predatory infovores, unrememberable worms which covered the human skin like dust mites, contagious bad news, self-sealing secrets, living murders, Chinatowns. Wheeler wonders if there might be something more serious awry with Marnes's head. His version of events is hopelessly romantic. In Wheeler's experience, nobody looks back on Foundation work fondly. But it was all too fast, Marnes says. Special containment procedures take time to develop, much more time than I took. The Foundation as a whole acquires about a dozen new SCPs annually. I found that many in 1 year. I found that many in 1 year. Essentially single-handedly. It was too easy. It was as if I knew it all already and I was just catching up. And then, one day, I realized I couldn't remember my life before antimemetics. I knew I'd been a Foundation operative for decades prior. That was where I got the authority to start my own division, but there was nothing else there. It was a wall in my mind, which even Nestix couldn't get me past. I went to the paper archives and looked at my own personnel file, and Marnes trails off. Not because he's forgotten what to say next. It's deliberate. Trailing off is exactly what happened.
You woke up back at your desk half a working day later, remembering nothing. You went through the loop a dozen times before someone realized what was happening and broke you out of it.
Wheeler knows all of this. The file still exists. The antimemetic effect still clouds the back half of it. All of this would be over in a second if any of that back half could be read. Marnes goes on. When I assembled the evidence, what I found was, well, a hole. Like a jigsaw with only the edges and corners. So I did the only thing I could do. I looked at the shape of the hole, and together with Bart Hughes and others, I formed a theory. This is not the first antimemetics division. Before 1976, there was another one. I was part of that division. Possibly I led it. Certainly I am the only known survivor of it. Something happened to that team. Some antimemetic force chewed up and swallowed the idea of the antimemetics division itself. I was let off lightly. Lived. The rest of those people, whoever they were, however many of them there were, are missing without trace.
Wheeler nods. This much I know already. I was there when you know the note, remember? The question is known. It's the answer that we can't get to without killing you. It's the answer that we've waited all these years to get at. I'm here to ask you what happened?
Marnes covers his right eye and grimaces, trying. He fails. It's not there. You haven't sent me back far enough. There's still that wall there in my head. I remember why the question exists, but I don't remember the answer. I need more. Wheeler swabs his arm and gives him another 10 years.
Excerpt from document 180047-109-LA799-098. User's Guide to Chemical Mnemestics. The Class X mnemestic drug is a failed eternal youth serum. X rejuvenates both mind and body up to redacted years, but its effects are temporary, wearing off in a matter of hours. Furthermore, as the drug wears off, the suppressed time reasserts itself all at once, causing a harmful whiplash effect on the subject's physiology. X can rejuvenate an individual safely by up to 30 days, but with stronger doses, the whiplash effect becomes dangerous, and past a threshold of 16 to 18 months, it is fatal in all known subjects. X restorative effect on the human memory is essentially a side effect of this. However, this side effect is so useful that it has become the drug's main practical purpose. The Antimemetics Division uses small doses of X to temporarily sharpen or restore memories from the recent past. This aids Foundation operatives in the accurate recall of incidents involving memory-corrupting entities.
Marnes seems like another man once the second X dose takes effect. Wrinkles are sliding back up into his face, muscle mass is returning to his limbs, but it takes Wheeler a second to realize the real reason why. She's just booted him back across the field desk agent transition line. Marnes has regressed a little way past senior management, the realm where most problems were solved by saying the correct words, and into a time where he survived through physical fitness, situational alertness, and hands-on experience. Marnes gets to his feet for the first time in years. He scans his surroundings, examining the placid golden lake and the sky and the boat itself. He doesn't sit down again. He smooths down his hospital gown, wishing he had a sweater and, separately, some fishing gear. He brushes a hand through new, old hair. His sideburns are back. We weren't Foundation at first, he says. The first Antimemetics Division was a US Army project. It ran parallel with Manhattan during World War II. We called ourselves the Unthinkables. It began as an experiment in advanced propaganda. The objective was to cut through the physical conflict and find a way to rupture the ideological machine, to obliterate the idea of Nazism. After 2 years, enough theory had been developed that the task had been reduced to an engineering problem. Another 2 years, and the engineering problem had been reduced as well, and what we had built was a very special kind of bomb. Unfortunately, we didn't understand what we'd built. Back then, we didn't have the nestics or the shielding that we could use to protect ourselves. We did not understand how far ahead you need to think when you are working with this kind of technology. We got looped. It was textbook. We built the unthinkable bomb and test detonated it, and it worked perfectly. The bomb destroyed itself and erased its own successful detonation and flattened all the knowledge which had gone together to build it. We forgot that we had ever built the bomb at all and started over. To our credit, we realized pretty quickly what must have happened. There was a 4-year gap in our progress now, and there was no other way to explain it. But by the time we put the pieces together the second time, the war was almost over. The Nazis had been defeated by conventional means, and the Japanese had been broken by the first atomic bombings, so we completed the second anti-memetic bomb, and after that we sat on it.
Marion Wheeler is silent for a long moment. The U.S. Army was secretly developing antimemetic weaponry as early as the 1940s.
Sure were, Marnes says, with more than a hint of pride. Of course, there is no one in the whole world. Sorry, that's your line.
Yeah, that is my line. Of course, there is no one in the whole world who could back this up.
That's right, Marnes says, flashing a smile he hasn't flashed in decades. You only have my word for it. Cute, huh? Still, this is why you resurrected me, isn't it? For the sake of one more good war story. God, I've missed shop talk.
I resurrected you because I want a very specific question answered. Although I can see that, in a way, you've already answered it. This bomb was the means, wasn't it? The old Antimemetics division
The Unthinkables.
bombed themselves, somehow.
That's right.
From context, I assume that they knew what they were doing that time, so it wasn't an accident.
It was not, Marnes says. The displaced half of Marnes's brain is anchored in the 70s now, so the true history of the new original Unthinkables is an open book to him. And he reads. After the war, the second bomb collected dust for years. We began sketching improved designs for a third bomb, but around that time, oversight was starting to flicker out. We completed our research and production objectives and were given no further objectives. Funding became shaky. We couldn't figure out why. It wasn't entirely clear that the project overseers knew what we were doing, or even that they remembered we existed. It was a side effect from the research, of course, one we had no way of managing at the time. In 1951, a cult movement began in Ojai, California.
Oh, hi.
Thank you. In Ojai, California. It was wrong. Everything about it was just wrong. In a matter of days, it was a national phenomenon and still growing. It was all over the news. To spread that far in months would have been incredible, but days was simply impossible.
Especially in 1951.
We in the team could see that the philosophy behind the cult was unnaturally contagious. It was the opposite of unthinkable. It was unforgettable. We knew that this was what our bomb was designed for. We prompted the overseers for direction, but there were no orders. At the time that the outbreak began, we were a US Army laboratory through and through. 8 days into the crisis, the Foundation acquired us. All the classified research, all the material resources, all the compliant top staff, including me. Anybody who wouldn't comply was mind-wiped and sent back to the Army. 20 hours after the acquisition, we deployed the second bomb, and the cult was gone. Nobody remembered it. Nobody remembered being part of it. Zero loss of life. A completely clean detonation. After that is when everything really kicked off. Once we started working for the Foundation, the pace of research ramped up. Every new technological advancement uncovered new hidden SCPs. I passed the Foundation field exam and went out catching ghosts. My life turned into the Twilight Zone. Marnes blinks hard. He covers one of his eyes, then the other. I remember all these different people now, he says. It feels like my memory is in stereo. Almost every antimemetic SCP we caught before the wipe in 76, we caught again soon after the wipe. That means I remember acquisition logs for each one. I remember the mechanism of anomalously accelerated memory loss. Wrote a library on the subject.
Wheeler doesn't.
Dr. Ojabiru, Julie Still.
Elle, this is important. Are you at the right place in your own timeline to remember what happened yet? Ooh?
Give me an indicator of when we last heard you folks.
Want to keep talking for a second?
Yeah, I'll keep talking, see if it comes back on
You're
stream.
coming across according to...
Thanks, Quantum.
Okay. Go back to, do you remember Goldie Yarrow? Interesting. Not quite sure what's going on there. He's coming across as clear on OBS. So Mike is very squelchy. Hang on a second, folks. Give me 1 second. Let's go to a quick break because we're gonna need to run one anyway. Let me fix his mic and we'll come back. Sorry to
Okay.
interrupt the tension. Where's my BRB screen? Hold on. Hang on. I gotta find buttons. Buttons. Oh, I blocked it out. All right, fine. We'll do this manually. Hang on.
Yeah, we'll do it live. We'll do it live.
All right, I'm coming through.
This is a test of the emergency broadcast, Alistair.
I'll give it a second because it looks fine on my end. Sound is better. Thank you very much, Celia. All right, there we go.
Take it from I remember all these different people now.
All right. Yeah, that sounds safest.
I remember all these different people now, he says. It feels like my memory is in stereo. Almost every antimemetic SCP we caught before the wipe in 76, we caught again soon after the wipe. That means I remember 2 acquisition logs for each one. I remember 2 antimemetics teams, and I don't remember who belongs on which side of the wall. Do you remember Goldie Yarrow, the neurologist, studied the mechanism of anomalously accelerated memory loss, wrote a library on the subject? Wheeler doesn't. Dr. Ojibiru, Julie Still?
L, this is important. Are you at the right place in your own timeline to remember what happened yet?
Marness focuses, and he discovers that he is. Something changes in his eyes as he stops reminiscing. He speaks more slowly now, his voice dropping almost to a whisper. There is an SCP which your division has never seen. The SCP which my division couldn't contain. The escapee. What you wanted, isn't it, Marion?
Yes, this is the data I'm killing you for. She leaves a gap where, if she felt there was anything to apologize for, she would apologize.
Marness locks eyes with her. It was eating my division alive. It came at us so hard and so fast that the only way we could stop it was to self-destruct, but we had no site nuke, and in retrospect it is obvious to me now that this was because the SCP had consumed our site nuke, first of all. If you know it exists, it knows you exist. The more you know about it, the more it knows about you. If you can see it, it can see you, and you can see it. You've been looking right at it all afternoon.
Wheeler is suddenly acutely aware of her surroundings.
There are only 2 of them on the boat. The boat is anchored more than a kilometer from any of the lake shores.
She hasn't brought any backup with her. There's a radioactive prickling in her brain. She doesn't. Red flag. Why didn't I bring any backup with me? That doesn't make sense. There should be a team at the lake house. There should be an NTF operative and a medic here on the boat with me. And a second boat at minimum. Am I all alone out here? Why did I do that? She pulls her gun, but doesn't aim it at Marness. Not yet. Where is it? Is it in you?
Marness's voice is becoming urgent. He covers both of his eyes again. Destroying all knowledge of it was the only way to destroy it, and restoring my memories was a foolproof way of bringing it back.
It's in his eyes. Likely his left eye. Wheeler picks up to the other side of the boat, draws a bead on the center of Marness's head, and says, L, are you still in there?
There's a way to fix this, Marness hisses, dropping to his knees. He keeps his eyes screwed up and gropes his way forward blindly on his hands and knees.
Elle, you need to tell me what this thing is.
That's the opposite of what we need to do, Marness says. You need to set another bomb off.
We don't have that bomb. We lost that technology.
You've always had it. There's an engineering lab in Site 1. You know it. An underground complex the size of a football field. Pristine condition. Totally disused. Why? Think about it. That's where your bomb's installed.
But that just sets us back to square one. If I set the bomb off, Wheeler says, knowing full well that she is thousands of kilometers from it and couldn't hope to reach it in time anyway, how do we contain this thing?
We won't. We can't. Ever. Don't you get it? The whole division is looped. We start the division, we run headlong into this thing, and either it eats us, or we wipe ourselves out in self-preservation. The idea of anti-memes is as old as forgetfulness itself. Humans have been looping this problem over and over since long before the 40s, maybe for centuries. His blindly probing fingers find the medical box. It's too late. As Wheeler watches, a waving black pedipalp, coated in dark hairs, forces its way out through Marness's left eye. Marness screams. Still on his knees, he grasps the pedipalp with both hands and tries to break it, but it's solid, as if it has bones inside it.
What is it? That can't be the whole story. Where is it from? What does it want? Can it reason? Can it speak?
Help. A second spider leg, significantly longer and spindlier, slides out through Marness's trachea, ruining his throat and voice box, and producing a gout of blood. He gurgles. A third leg shoots from his abdomen like a spear.
Wheeler shoots Marness in the head. Marness falls forward limp, then rises back up, lifted by the 3 spider appendages, as if he is a puppet being controlled by something gigantic and invisible. His arms raise as if suspended by wires. Wheeler squints. She fires 4 more shots over Marness's head at the likely body mass of the invisible puppeteer, and fires the rest of her clip almost directly into the sky. The whole boat vibrates along with the surface of the lake as if responding to infrasound or a localized earthquake. Then the boat shudders violently and starts to lift out of the water, raised by more unseen appendages. Wheeler holsters her gun and goes for the medical box herself, pulling it away from Marness's floating feet. There's a compartment with Class B amnestics, the fast-acting stuff in serum form. She does a hurried burst of mental arithmetic, measures out the correct dosage in a syringe, and, hands shaking, plunges it into a wrist vein. The boat is still rising. Whatever the monster is, it's colossally tall. Or maybe it flies. She is, of course, already dosed up to the eyeballs with domestic drugs. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to perceive any of this. Foundation medical literature warns in the strongest possible terms about putting both kinds of drugs into the same brain. Best case scenario, this ends with her in the hospital. They're 30 meters in the air now, 10 stories. There's a stabbing pain developing in her left eye. She kicks her shoes off and throws the gun away. She goes to the edge and contemplates the drop for a disbelieving second, and then jumps. It takes 2 full, heart-stopping seconds of freefall for her to hit the water. The chilled hammer blow of the impact is enough to blank her mind. By the time she surfaces, she doesn't remember where she fell from or why. And likewise, the skyscraper-sized being which claimed Marness and the boat has forgotten about her. What the hell? She gasps, treading water. What the hell? There's nothing above her. No explanation. Only the symptoms of the drug cocktail give her any indication of what just happened. In sensation like hundreds of tiny lumps of hot solder in her brain. and pain and exhaustion spreading to all of her tendons. She wants to die. Swim, says a part of her. Get to shore first. Then you can die. The extraction team finds her around dusk, unconscious on the lakeshore. They stabilize her in the helicopter, then take her to Site 41 for examination and to have her system flushed. She spends a solid 8 days at home, detoxifying no nestics, no amnestics, no exposure to dangerous memory-corrupting SCPs, no work visitors.
No work.
The doctor also tells her, utterly pointlessly. It isn't anywhere near the first missing event in Wheeler's life, nor is she the first person in the ANTIMEMETICS staff to have such an experience, but the sensation is no less disturbing for its familiarity. As per procedure, she writes a report summarizing everything she can remember. The gap in her memory is about 13 hours. Then she adds her report to the extensive, complex map of missing time, which the whole division maintains collectively. It's a map of holes, and the map is becoming large enough that very faint patterns are gradually forming. The outline of an enemy is becoming visible, or perhaps a group of enemies. When she quizzes the extraction team later, none of them remember who activated the emergency beacon which summoned them. In fact, the beacon itself cut out long before they landed at the lake. Wheeler compares the current size of her division with her best estimate of what it should be. Maybe she needs a few more key people here and there, so, assuming the division was fully staffed before the event, maybe those empty roles are the people who died this time around. Maybe one of them activated the beacon, a commendable act by someone now known only to exist because of that single act. It's weeks later, and Wheeler discovers the largest new hole in her memory. Who founded the division? And when? And that's it for this week.
I love this thing.
I know. That was 2 of the 3 chapters that we prepped for tonight, but the 3rd chapter is about the same size, so I think this was a very good place to wrap it up.
I think it was Goblin who perfectly described it in the chat as this goes from 0 to 1 million in an instant. It does that in basically every chapter.
Congratulations! You found another theme! Bravo! We're capturing many, many themes. Please do feel free to read ahead if you want, especially if you have content warning needs. It might be helpful for you to be like, nope, so that if there are specific events, we can warn you about them more in the chat. But yeah, it's really, 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 really freaking good. There's been a couple of discussions of things in the chat that I want to pick up on real quick. First of all, hello to new joiners.
Hello.
Apparently, this book is recommended reading for Blue Sky employees, which I did not know, which is interesting when you think about it, because I'm trying to put on the corporate hat and think about why would I want people to read this. And the lesson I would want someone to take away from reading this is think about what you don't know and why you don't know it as much as about assuming you know everything and what it is you do know. So maybe that's why it does.
I think the thing I'd maybe add to that is one of the big themes I take away from this is selflessness, for want of a better word. One of the recurrent things in this is moments like you see in the boat with Wheeler, where she basically says, I have about 3 seconds to get this thing to forget me, because that's the only way I won't die. And hundreds of other people won't die at the very least. Yeah, okay. Or one of my favorite parts of the book, actually, the aggregated SCP written by Alistair Gray's Victims. So much of this is about, or resonates for me personally as there is no loud honking megaphone hero. that says stupid shit on the social media network he bought instead of a motorbike or getting a tattoo or any of those other sensible midlife crisis things. This is about not working for what you tell yourself is the greater good so you can sleep at night. This is about helping other people, which is the greatest good of all.
Blue Sky, folks, is a new social media platform that is launched by the creator of Twitter, I want to say.
Yeah, it's the Gigabeard. It's Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, okay. So, interesting. Oh, but Quantum, what this tells me is that you need to reach out to your agent if you have one and say, hey, I just found out that this company is recommending my book. They need to hire me to give like a presentation about the themes of the book. Let me know if you need help with that, because you should totally get paid.
Absolutely.
Because when my company does that, when we have a guest speaker in, part of the gig is they buy copies of the book for everybody. So, yeah, you should totally mention to that.
You should mention it to your agent, and the entire talk should be about the version of Blue Sky before this one, and see how long it takes for someone to go.
Wait,
What?
But you totally could, though. You could tell a story about the evolution of the social media platform and its place in society totally through the lens of this is what's come before, and do we remember the lessons and going forward? Get paid. Get paid, my friend. You have mad talent. Get paid.
You are unbelievably talented.
100%. You folks need to read my Twitter thread about Google people. Send that my way, and I will put that on my reading list. Right.
I love this
thing.
So
it has been recommended to us that we will do 2 more chapters next week.
Yep.
Because that will be the end of part 1 of the book, which is an excellent suggestion, and we will likely do that because I've prepped one of them. I just have to prep the second one again.
The other thing that I really wanted to highlight was that something that I remembered at the time, the first time I read this, but which popped out beautifully here, which is the reference to Chinatowns. Chinatown is a modern, relatively noir classic starring Jack Nicholson as a private detective. And Wendy has very kindly dropped the meaning of the words "Leave it, Jake, it's Chinatown" in the chat for us.
If I remember correctly from the first time I read this through, it will be explained in a little bit more detail later on.
We have not reached my favorite concept, not just in this novel, but in the entire SCP continuity.
We'll talk about it when we get there for sure. So I played Return of the Obra Dinn this week, and that combined with this is making my brain go, what if game where you're filling in memory holes created by anti-memes? I mean, that sounds like a brilliant concept to me. The question becomes, okay, are you going to engage with the thing that was eating it in the first place? You could like mash it up with aliens, that creepy, horrible hide from the alien audio surround sound game that I cannot play because I will never sleep again. Would be accurate to say that the book, but particularly this last chapter, says something about how history tends to repeat itself because we keep forgetting past stuff, or am I reaching? I wouldn't be at all surprised. We are going to try and arrange an interview with Quantum when we're done with the book, because I'll probably, like us, you have a few million questions, and that is an excellent answer. You've identified perhaps a theme. Let us continue with the recordation of the themes, all right? For sure. Right, so we don't need to take another break, but we are coming up on time, and I absolutely do not want people to go to bed on nightmare fuel. So
let's just dive straight into it.
Right, but before we do, first of all, I have to take us to the shenanigan location, to the place of shenanigans. Look, we are now in the place of shenanigans.
The Shenanadome.
That was pretty easy to do. But first of all, we are going to be reading from the amazing, where is my button, shenanigans, the amazing AO3 posted fanfic from our own darling Shiny Opals, which was Ask an Exec How to Navigate Cultish Colleagues, Soul-Stealing Bosses, and the End of the World at Work. Before we do, though, I need to put a little link in the chat for all of you, because there's also something going on at AO3 right now that they need people's support with, which is that they are having a call to action for ending racism on the OTW platforms. This has been a long-standing issue that promises have been made about and have not been delivered upon. And so proponents are putting together a movement to try and raise more awareness about how this is an issue and to hold the OTW to account to actually enact some of the protections they've talked about. You can learn a lot more about it on their website. They've got a Tumblr. They've got some steps that they can ask people to take part in. But since we are going to be engaging with AO3 content, we wanted to make everybody aware if they wanted to look it up. So on that note, where are we? We're in the middle of chapter 2, if I remember correctly.
I thought we were at the top of chapter 2.
No, we started with chapter 2 last time.
Did we?
Hang on. I made notes last time. I was very prepared. We read the first
yes, we did.
two. No, I made antimemetics notes. We started with chapter 2. Let me see where we are. Scrolling. We had the dress code conversation. No, that's chapter 1, isn't it? One moment, if you please.
Chapter 2 opens with new manager signed off work for a few weeks due to an injury. The top of season 2. I thought we had finished season 1 and left it there last time. I could be wrong.
Nope. Okay, there we are. Risk he will poison your food. Okay, so we are at update and more concerning revelations from our favorite dysfunctional nonprofit. Chapter 2. It is the third, perhaps 1, 2, 3, fourth green header in chapter 2.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember now. No memory holes for me.
This OP is a friend of the blog. If you want to catch up, start here, or here's a link to his most recent letter.
Dear Abigail, thank you for your help and the kind words you've had as I have been trying to work out who's trying to murder me.
Is the most John thing that's ever been written in a sentence.
I have some fantastic news. I've been able to clear Marvin of all suspicion. At least, I think I have. I found out what he was lying about. He simply falsified some information related to his hiring. He has, as far as I can tell, no desire to kill me. I don't think. Unfortunately, I confronted him rather forcefully in order to obtain this information. I must confess I'm a little concerned that he might be upset. I must once again turn to you for advice. Is there a professional way to apologize to a colleague after interrogating them? Additionally, I have not yet been able to clear Tom, Sarah, and Eli. The danger remains. My search for information is slow. Kind regards, questionable non-profit, OP.
Just as a reminder, this is in fact a Magnus Archives related fan fiction written by our own Shiny Opals in the style of
Ask a Manager.
Ask a Manager. It contains headline content warnings for socio-political themes, violence, and swearing. Dear questionable nonprofit OP, there's a couple of things I'd like to address with your letter this time. Firstly, there's the issue of your confrontation with Marvin. Reading between the lines, it sounds like this escalated beyond the point of professionalism. The word interrogation should never be used to describe workplace interactions, especially not between a manager and a subordinate. However, it does sound like you know this, and I think an apology here is the correct call. I can also very much sympathize that it sounds like you're under a huge amount of stress, and that stress might come out in ways you don't expect. Don't forget, though, Marvin is working under similar conditions to you, and is very likely facing stresses of his own. I'd recommend taking him aside privately, laying out specifically what you did that was wrong, for example, shouting, your email wasn't specific, and making a clear apology. If there is something you plan to do differently to avoid this situation in the future, you could use this chance to say it to Marvin. If you are someone who finds this sort of conversation difficult, it is worthwhile planning out what you're going to say in advance, as you don't want to get bogged down or end up repeating yourself. Nor do you want to get the tone wrong. You also want to make sure the conversation has a clear and definite stopping point. Don't get trapped in cycles of apologizing for the same thing repeatedly. You'll end up making it sound like a bigger deal than it is. The British character! In
Sorry.
one sentence.
Sorry.
Either have a segue into another topic or a conversation closer planned, i.e., some sort of thank you for your time if there's nothing else you'd like to discuss, then, etc. That said, I think an important second point here is that Marvin told you some information and you absolutely need to follow up on that. Reading between the lines, it sounds like he's confessed something that may indicate problems with his initial hiring. Your earliest letter to me was regarding concerns for Marvin's ability at work. If there's something else going on top of that, it is your responsibility to manage that. At minimum, it sounds like he's well overdue a PIP. If something's more significant that may get him into legal or other trouble, you might need to take appropriate steps. You don't necessarily need to do this in the same meeting as your apology, but the two may connect. For example, your segue could be, moving on, I'm afraid we do need to address some issues with your performance, etc. Again, if you know exactly what you need to bring up and you can be calm and objective, your goal is that Marvin comes away from the conversation feeling as though he's been heard and treated fairly, but he knows where he stands. If, however, the detail you uncovered is more serious, you need to be clear with him, and the earlier the better, that if you have an obligation to take this up the chain of command to Eli. Your vagueness as to details makes it hard for me to provide truly specific advice. But there are many posts on this blog about conducting disciplinary action professionally. I appreciate that it's an awkward thing to consider as a manager, but it may be the best course for yourself and your organization.
Non-profit OP. I'm certainly not firing Marvin. I promised him I wouldn't.
Abigail didn't even suggest firing him?
Denny, don't you hate this guy? Non-profit. I've been quite clear from the start I do not hate him. I just had professional concerns.
Denny.
Wasn't there a thing with a dog in the office? Non-profit OP. We all make mistakes. I like to think Marvin can be forgiven for his.
I understand the idea of firing someone may not sit comfortably, but if he's done something worth being fired for, it's paramount to follow up on this. Your job and professional reputation likely depend on it, and you owe it to your organization. You work in a high-stress environment, so you need a team you can count on. Not to mention that Marvin may be in danger or putting others at risk, depending on what secret you discovered.
I am extremely aware of this.
Linny B. OP, I am losing my mind here. Why won't you quit? I've worked at some dysfunctional nonprofits in my time, so I know it can't be the money, but it's unlikely to be the coworkers or even that much belief in the mission.
Non-profit OP. Perhaps my organization's raison d'etre is simply a passion project of mine.
There have to be other organizations without the terrorism, though.
Non-profit OP. That would be lovely, wouldn't it? Unfortunately for myself, I have unfinished work.
Hey, OP, blink twice if you need help.
I've made no secret of the fact that someone wants me dead. I don't particularly think coded communication is needed.
Hey, OP, I know there's probably nothing, since I think you said you were British and I'm West Coast, but it does sound like a shit show you're stuck in. If there's anything some random dude can do, let me know. If you need a sign telling you to leave, this is it. If you need a place to vent, Abigail does off-topic threads sometimes, or make an account and DM me.
Oh. Thank you. That's very kind to offer. I couldn't possibly, but I appreciate it very much nonetheless.
Whatever you decide. Look after yourself, dude. Can I just say that is this as a West Coast and someone raised Brit, can I just say that is oh, how sweet. I couldn't possibly inconvenience you with my mere existence. But
Hey.
Kat, so how's Marvin doing?
Oh, since I wrote and sent this letter, things haven't improved.
Since you yelled at him, you mean? Wow. Okay, touchy. What does avoiding you mean, OP?
Hasn't brought me tea, and we haven't gone out to lunch together. I'm a bit concerned I've properly upset him.
Well, hopefully the apology will work. Misappropriation. Bro. Non-profit OP.
Oh, crap. I did the apology, and he looked really smiley in that way he does sometimes. That's very genuine and warm, and Not like the fake smiles some people do when they don't actually mean it. And then he said it was fine and we should get lunch, except we haven't had lunch in a few days and I'm worried I'll muck it up again. And he said I look like I need a break and he hopes I'm okay. And how do I get him to stop asking about that sort of thing? Someone's trying to kill me. Obviously, I'm not okay.
Maybe you should skip the lunch.
Obviously, I'm going to lunch.
Are you gay?
I don't see the relevance, and even if I did, I think that's my business.
Dude, reread your comments in this thread when you get a minute. Hey, OP, you there? I'm teasing, dude. It's totally cool, whatever the answer is. Not exactly a fun thing to tease somebody about. Yeah, I made an assumption this guy was either out/an ally, what with the pronouns in the first letter. I don't know which is worse, secret homophobe or sudden panic spiral. Abigail, can we close this topic here? Thank you. There may be many reasons our OP is no longer responding to comments, especially given the nature of his work, and this is certainly not the place to speculate about the sexuality of our writers. He is not required to either comment nor answer questions. As a reminder, on our comments policy, homophobic and transphobic comments will be deleted. Okay, sorry.
Office holiday party. Are we doing this one?
Of course we are.
Of course
Of
we
course we're gonna do one more. It says office holiday party.
Office
We're
holiday
not
party.
callous.
Office holiday party etiquette, mandatory, fun, and what to do when you really don't want to go.
Our regular friend from the questionable nonprofit has written in again. If you've not read any of his emails before, you may want to take some time to catch up. So there is a bit of a backstory.
Dear Abigail, thank you for your advice last time, though I admit I have not and still do not intend to follow it. Thank you for going out of your way to help me.
No.
Fuck off.
Well, can we just comment on the fact that John said crap? I mean,
Right? He's under so much stress, poor boy.
thank you terribly for advice. I've chosen to ignore it.
Marvin has shown himself to be trustworthy and actually rather competent, now that I take both my new knowledge into account and also assess his progress with an unbiased view. If he wishes to stay, I will not betray him. If he ever chooses to leave, I will, of course, support him, as we do not work in a kind organization, and he deserves better. Unfortunately, I have a new problem. The annual staff Christmas party approaches. I have never been fond of mandatory fun. I prefer to socialize in smaller groups.
Sure.
Nevertheless, it has been made clear to me in the past that as a department head, my attendance is non-optional. Last year, I attended the dinner, bought a round of drinks for the team, had a chat with Eli about the department's progress, and discreetly withdrew. Shortly afterwards, I considered that my duty done. This year, I would have planned to do the same, except someone is trying to kill me. How can I possibly eat and drink around people I'm not safe with? I know Tom is watching me. I know Sarah isn't telling me things. And I know Eli can't be trusted. Marvin is safe, I think. I have to believe he's safe. He's the only one, though. And I can't possibly ask Eli if I can simply not attend. What if that puts him on to me? I'm thinking of asking Marvin if he can stand next to me all night to keep me company. He's safe. I can promise to buy his drinks as compensation. I need to find some excuse to not let him get away from me. He knows I suspect the others.
Oh my god.
He might help. Is that reasonable? Is there a more professional way to ask? Is there a better idea? Thank you for your advice. Questionable non-profit OP.
Dear questionable nonprofit OP, I am asking you with some urgency to please not invite your subordinate to something that could easily be misconstrued as a date. I can appreciate you're under some stress here, but I think you may be missing the obvious answer. Call in sick. Depending on your organization, you could quite genuinely call it a mental health day, either to yourself or to Eli. You are justified in taking time every now and again. It is extremely okay. If you think that that'll read like skipping the party, or your organization doesn't tolerate that kind of time off, come down with a stomach bug or something similar. Food poisoning often lasts around a day and rarely has coworkers asking too many questions. I will say, unusualness of your specific role aside, I am not a huge fan of mandatory fun, as you have so correctly called it myself. I strongly believe it should be paid time. I know there can be a lot of pressure to attend at different organizations, and often it's advised to play along. Your strategy last year was perfect, and it set you up well enough to miss this one without having anyone being too suspicious. You can't do it for every social or team building event, but once every so often, you can get away with it. And given your specific circumstances in this case, I really think you should.
OP. Ah. OP. So, in the time between emailing you and publishing this, I may have asked Marvin to the Christmas party with me. OP. I'm sure it was extremely clear I did not mean it as a date.
Bless you, OP, genuinely, but why is accidentally dating your coworker more top of mind than pulling a sickie?
We're not dating. We're going to one party together as friends, friendly acquaintances, co-workers who don't want to murder each other. I don't know. Anyway, I don't take many sick days. It would be unrealistic.
Hey, OP, Abigail usually does a holiday party roundup of all the most embarrassing stories of the year. Be sure to add yours to it once you've gone to the party.
Yes, I'm glad my decision-making is amusing to you.
Oh, God, OP, you may not have meant to, but you cannot, as someone's manager, do this. It makes the mandatory fun even more mandatory for Martin. Lawyer is curdling and quid pro quo sexual harassment.
I hope OP's still standing by his word to support Marvin when he resigns. Of course I will, if he does. Look, while I can't pretend to be perfect in matters of manager-employee relations, I did make sure to ascertain if he was going to the blasted event before I asked if he wanted to keep me company while we were there. He was extremely enthusiastic about the idea, lending me to think he, like me, hates mingling. I told him we would even discuss his precious bloody spiders if he helped me avoid Eli.
Oddly enough, I actually worked somewhere before where my manager for real romantically dated a subordinate. Whatever you're doing, OP, please do not do that. It was awful. The manager constantly favored his partner who got all the best shifts, and oh boy, when it came to layoffs, you'll never guess what happened.
Bashir. I'm not sure if that's better or worse than the time two people in my department broke up and it caused a massive rift. They expected us all to choose a side and wouldn't talk to you if you were friends with the other.
Oh, this is giving me hives just reading it. This is why you shouldn't have romantic relationships at work, people. Abigail, I will drink to that.
Bashir, this.
Wombleton, also, if you're going to, don't sext over the company emails. Some of us work in IT, and the things I've seen.
Nope. I would like to be extremely clear that myself and Marvin are not romantically involved in any capacity. However, an additional point I think is worth considering is that those not in romantic relationships are more than capable of causing a significant amount of drama and discomfort for their fellow colleagues.
Hear, hear. My manager's a right knob with clear favorites even without any romance or sex involved. He's just a dick.
Bran, change org petition to ban mandatory holiday parties when?
I'll sign.
I agree.
Me too.
Ditto.
Where do we sign?
Count me in.
I'm just going to mark our place.
Love that.
Oh, Peter, you've embarrassed me at the annual Institute holiday party
Divorce!
for the last time. I want another divorce. Can you not? Exactly. Doing the seagull moment. We are not romantically involved whatsoever. However, right, that was the most pregnant. If that pause was any more pregnant, insert your analogy here. But
Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
this thing is huge. That we're not even done with chapter 2. She's written 6 chapters. Good grief. And it has now sent everybody to bed on the nightmare fuel of Martin talking about spiders to John at a Christmas party, as opposed to the 30-meter tall skyscraper spiders with a boat stabbed through it. So, yay!
Yeah, no brain spiders, happy spiders.
Just happy little spiders.
Happy little spiders.
Oh, happy little T. I have T over there. He's over there. You can't see him. I think that was everything for tonight, and we're just about on time. We are a touch over time. Quick, give everybody a very brief recap on where they can find us this week.
You can next find us on Friday when the next issue of our frequently award-nominated newsletter, The Full Lid, will go live. There's all kinds of really good stuff in this week, which I'm training myself to not reveal early, but it's good. You should read it.
It's good and free. And you can sign up at thefulllid.com or at alistairstewart.com.
Yes, quite.
At his website.
That.
Yes, it's free. It's some positivity in your inbox on a Friday. And then Austin has lots of memes and cute videos because, hi, we've met us, right?
I'm really glad you could come along too, Lavlish. I hope you had a good time. So yeah, that's Friday.
That was Friday.
And then on Sunday, we're going to be back doing Coffee Talk.
Are we? Yes, we are streaming this Sunday. We are playing Coffee Talk, which I'm enjoying, but all of my ability to experiment with different caffeinated beverages don't count unless I serve them to someone. So I am stuck with the moral dilemma of, do I serve someone the wrong drink so that I can add the drink to my repertoire, or do I serve people the correct drink and make them happy? It's very conflicting. Obviously, I'm going to have to play this game multiple times.
Clearly. Then next Sunday, I'll be streaming.
That was what we just talked about with Coffee Talk.
Of course, next Wednesday I'll be streaming.
Next Wednesday, yes, we will be streaming. I am on vacation for a couple of weeks, but we are hosting a friend who is visiting us, who is leaving before we stream on Wednesday, so we should be fine for streaming on next Wednesday.
Yes.
But then the following weekend, the bank holiday weekend for those of you in the UK, we will not be streaming on Sunday because we will be waking up from attending a wedding.
Yes, indeed.
But, well, it was vacation for Marguerite. It is now more like a series of interesting obligations equally spaced, which is kind of like a vacation as far as I'm concerned. There's going to be a lot of driving, and I get to go pick up and wear my new tuxedo. So I'm very happy about having an opportunity to do that. We'll call it a win. How about that? It's not going to be the kind of vacation where I just get to sit on a beach, unfortunately. But,
no.
The year's not over yet. One of those could happen. Yes, Marguerite is. May I go on a tangent? Ooh, I will push the tangent button. Please pardon me. It is now my turn for a tangent. Marguerite has gone to annual formal events for the last probably 10 years. And Marguerite is very fed up with the fact that I have to find a new dress or a new outfit every time. And Alistair got to buy one lovely, amazing tuxedo kilt and gets to wear it every time. So, for some reason I'm talking about myself in the third person, I've decided to treat myself to my own goddamn tuxedo. And it's going to be gorgeous, and it's custom made, and I'm hoping to pick it up from the tailor this weekend or next week.
And it looks so freaking
then
cool.
I'm done, because it's flexible, and it has a 3-piece, and I can wear it with other stuff, but I don't have to wear it with other stuff, and I don't ever have to be I'm going to a formal event, what I'm going to wear. It's going to be, I'm wearing this, how am I making it different this time? Ta-da!
It's going to be great.
It is really not purple. I tried very hard.
That was the plan.
That was the plan, but the purple fabric that I picked out was not of the correct weight in order to be able to do the tuxedo properly, so it is dark teal. Next time, I'm going to use that purple fabric for something else. No purple, unfortunately, but I got teal. And it's proper silk lapels and the whole 9 yards. It's very sexy. I can't wait. It's going to be amazing.
So that's where you can find
The
us.
End by
The
Jason
End.
Mendoza. Thank you for supporting it. I got to pick the lining, and by pick the lining I mean I went to Spoonflower and I said I want that one, please.
Yeah, it was so cool. Just watching the pair of them geek out for like 2 hours was amazing.
Yes, it was a very, very fun experience, and I'm afraid it's going to be addicting because then she showed me all the other stuff she made, and I'm like, uh-oh, I want more things. So I'm gonna have to pace myself because otherwise I will have all. I will just take all, please. And the thing is, I don't wear suits for work anymore because I work from home and I work on Zoom. I mean, I work in t-shirts like this because this is as much of me as you see. So it makes it more difficult to justify investing in a high-end, workwear like that. Not impossible, mind you, but more difficult. So
Difficult,
I have to
not
pace myself.
impossible.
And I'm trying to get like zen with waistcoats because next year's formal event will be probably Worldcon in Glasgow, Scotland. And the Worldcon convention has its own tartan that has been made for the event.
Indeed.
And so Alistair and I are going to get matching waistcoats. And that's how we are going to coordinate with the convention. So I'm going to wear this waistcoat, and get used to it. And by waistcoat, Americans, they mean vest, not what Brits call a vest, which is what Americans call a tank top.
Don't even get into the pants thing.
On this side of the island, it's pants are the things you wear on the inside against your skin. On my side of the country, pants are the things you wear on top of your underwear. It's very confusing.
I make my peace with it by realizing that at any given time, I'm always wearing 2 pairs of pants.
You are. No matter where you are, you're wearing 2 pairs of pants. I hadn't thought of it that way. If you think about it that way, you just survive. You just win, no matter what anybody says. Are you wearing pants?
Yes.
If someone asks if you're wearing pants, you say yes. Exactly. 2 nations divided by a single language. Absolutely 100%, Monday. That is completely accurate. Right. That is, I think, everything.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Ooh, I have to push the button that makes the credits roll. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. We greatly appreciate it. We are Alistair and Marguerite. We stream for the Escape Artist Foundation, which is a non-profit charity. Well, charity depending on how you describe it. That supports our audio fiction podcasts that release free stories for the world. So your donations or your subscriptions and all that good stuff help support that mission, which we greatly appreciate. I think that's everything.
I think that is. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. I've been Alistair.
I've been Marguerite.
And this has been fun. We'll see you next time.
Have a great night, everybody.